going to be talking about Deep Space Nine.
Yay!
Finally.
It's finally here.
Finally.
It's happening.
I love it. Isaac. Yeah, so everyone is, yeah. Woo, woo, woo. Super, super excited for this. I myself am thrilled to bits. I can't wait. I'm very excited. But first, I do want to do a nice little shout out for our Awarfable mug that fan of the stream made for us at Geek Filter. And Geek Filter takes part in another Star Trek discussion called Infinite Trek, which airs on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. So this time, but yesterday, on Outpost 13. So I'm going to throw that into the chat right now so people can go find that. And make sure I did that right. Yeah, there we go. So definitely be sure to check that out. And thank you, Geek Filter, for the nice Awarfable mug.
Yes.
I love it.
So cool.
You had the pin yesterday, right?
I have a pin last week, and I'm getting my shirt. It's on its way.
Awesome.
Tank top, yay.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. So thank you again for that. So if people haven't seen this before, if you're coming because it's like, ooh, Deep Space Nine, this is a Star Trek Sunday brunch that we started doing because Samantha had never, up until like 3 years ago, seen Star Trek. And so we started watching it together and chatting about it. So yeah, how's it going?
It's going so well. So for everyone who's unfamiliar, I had never seen Star Trek before, and we started with Voyager. That was the very first Star Trek series I ever watched, ever. And that was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And then we jumped right into Next Generation, and we finished that last week. And so now we're on Deep Space Nine, which I'm excited about because I know it's Erin's favorite series, and I talked about it for a long time. So yay.
Yeah, I don't shut up about it. It's the greatest series ever. So we got some new people in the chat. I think DS9er fan, thank you for being here, and I appreciate it. And then Phrase, I'm glad you like the robe. It's very comfy. It does get very warm. I do have to shed it at the top of the hour. And then as Etuke, I always trip up over that. DS9 for life. This is it. So we are now in Deep Space Nine mode. So we are going to be talking about the first, if you count Emissary as one episode, the first 5 episodes. Hi, Padawan. Yes, DS9 is my fave as well. So we're going to be discussing Emissary. We're going to be discussing past Prologue. A Man Alone, Babel, and Captive Pursuit are the ones that we're going to be talking about today. And if you want to catch up on our TNG discussions or anything else, you can find a link in the YouTube link down below. You can go find our Star Trek Sunday Brunch playlist there. So yes, let's kick it off. So you're watching DS9. What did you think of the pilot, Emissary? For those of you who don't remember, this basically, it introduces Deep Space Nine. We have Benjamin Sisko shows up. We get his backstory, his history with Picard. There's a bit of a handoff from TNG to DS9, and this whole plot with a wormhole and Bajor and the Cardassians that you started to learn kind of in that last season of TNG. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. So I firstly, it was so well set up from the ending of Next Gen, right? So getting to know these characters, getting to know these species and kind of all of that mixed in together. And what's funny though is my main knowledge of Deep Space Nine, right, is mainly from Voyager, like the one scene where Harry Kim goes to Deep Space Nine and has the Ferengi interaction. And from that, I was thinking, oh, so Deep Space Nine is a space station, and it's super, it's like a starship but a space station. So it's shiny and nice and pretty and this modern thing. But then you're dropped into Deep Space Nine, and it's gritty and dark and dingy and falling apart, and this whole thing that needs to be fixed. And I was like, oh, this is different than what I was expecting.
Awesome.
So I had to kind of recalibrate quickly, because I was like, okay, this is what the story is. They're either they're building Deep Space Nine, or it's been built and it's just like this. I don't know if that's the case. but yeah, like you're really thrown into this, and it was sort of, because of that, it was really atmospheric. It's really clear that this is a different kind of Star Trek series, and because they're stationary, so it's this whole different mentality and of how the stories will unfold. And yeah, there was a lot packed in because of the whole wormhole thing. That I wasn't aware that was going to be the part of it. That's why they're stationed there, is because of this wormhole,
right? Basically,
and I didn't realize that. So that was interesting. Lots of cool character introductions. Still not sure how I feel about Sisko. I like him, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
awesome. Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Lots to unpack. So I think one of the big things is this handoff. Like, it's interesting, and I think a lot of people struggled with Deep Space Nine when it first aired because of that grittiness, as well as the fact that, like, the introduction of Sisko is kind of an anti-Picard introduction, right? Here's our new captain. He's commander of a space station, and he hates Picard. And Picard is like a well-loved character. And it goes back to, I don't know how much you remembered about Wolf 359 and Locutus, that was that battle that killed his wife. So it's a brutal introduction.
It really, yes, exactly, it is. And he is not set up to be super likable in the beginning, and I think part of the storytelling with the alien, like the non-corporeal being that gets
prophets
in his head, is sort of designed to make you like him more in a way, like, because of the way he's describing human life to them. I thought that was really nice. And I saw a very human side to him, immediately in that first two-parter. I still don't think he's my favorite yet. I haven't had that moment of like, oh, now I see. Now you're like, I'm on your side. But I don't hate him.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I certainly struggled. I struggled a little bit with Sisko in the beginning as well. And I think some of it is just trying to find the character. And I do think that, Avery Brooks, as well as an actor, was trying to find that character because it's such a unique one. And as A. Harvey mentioned, this is one of the first times where we get a sense that, like, not everyone loves Picard. He's not this, like, worshipped captain in the Star Trek universe, that people are like, F that guy, man.
Yeah.
he caused hell for Wolf 359. Like, that's him. And that's hard. That's weird,
Totally. Yeah. But I feel like, I liked that this set up that this series was going to be different.
Yeah. And
it was very clear to me. And I have O'Brien. O'Brien's back.
I'm so happy. And we have some great O'Brien episodes right from the beginning too. So he gets to shine here more than he really did kind of in TNG. So that's exciting. What did you think about Jake Sisko being here? Like, that we have a kid as well.
Yeah. Well, we come up against this a few episodes from now, but I agree with Keiko. Like, this is not a great place for children. Like, I don't have many strong feelings about the character himself, but I mean, yeah. It's just it sucks for him that he's on this falling apart, not shiny spaceship.
Right.
Station.
As A. Harvey said, to be fair, neither was the Enterprise a great place for kids.
This is true. Yes.
They may have had daycare centers, but there was a lot of shenanigans that they got up to.
Yeah.
And
they need like full planets that are just for the kids of the people that are in the sky.
right, exactly. And there's some interesting discussions too. Like, you haven't seen it, but we'll reference it a couple times. But the Deep Space Nine documentary that came out, I guess, last year now, went into this portrayal of Black fathers and how Deep Space Nine like resonated a lot with the Black community as a portrayal of family, and I think that that's really interesting in the way that they set it up. And so did you mentioned a little bit at the beginning, like you were curious, like where did this station come from? Did that get answered for you in these, or should we answer that now for you?
I probably missed it.
Yes.
Let's answer that.
Okay, so this was a Cardassian station. So this during the Cardassian occupation of Bajor. This was basically one of their outposts. And then as part of those negotiations that we saw in TNG, this was one of those where it was like they surrendered this space station to the Federation. So now like Federation is just now taking over this station. And Odo is a holdover, Quark is a holdover from the operations of this station. So they were there during the Cardassians.
That would have been a good thing not to miss.
Yeah.
I don't know how. You still hear like all these words coming by, and I'm like, wait, what did they just say?
That's okay.
Something about Cardassians. Okay, I get it now. That's a lot clearer.
So that's why like the layout is a little different. It doesn't feel necessarily like a Federation designed station, you know, that and then some of those episodes we got with O'Brien grumbling about the mechanics.
But, right. That makes a lot more sense now.
Awesome. So let's see, what else do we have to talk about this one? Kira.
Well, we're introduced to Kira.
Yes. What did you think of Kira? Because you loved Ro.
I loved Ro, and I definitely see the comparisons that the people were talking about last week in the chat about her being basically a Ro type character, and I definitely see those comparisons, and I love her so far. Yeah. I really like her, and
Good.
her you know, she has to hand over the control to Sisko, and their relationship in the beginning was really I think there's a lot of dynamics there that they're dealing with, but I think so far I really like their relationship.
Right. And she's, I mean, and she is there where it's like this is a joint Federation plus Bajoran. You know, she's not, even though the Federation is in charge of it, she's there to represent Bajor and the Bajorans for this. So just a couple of things from the chat. Domestic mentioned, my understanding, Avery Brooks had to deal with additional restraints on his character, and yeah, I think that was fair. I remember from the documentary they talked about, I forget what show he was in before Deep Space Nine, but that he was like this, you know, badass goatee wearing cool dude, and then he's not that at the introduction of Deep Space Nine. So that was like a little disappointing for people who were hoping to see that.
I got it.
And then DTG Andy mentioned it's important to note that DS9 was there because of Bajor, not because of the wormhole. That's the end of the episode, is where this wormhole opens and becomes stable.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and the Cardis, DS9er fans said the Cardis trashed the place on the way out. So yeah,
you know, fair.
Yeah. So good times. But I'm glad you like Kira. I think people do have some mixed emotions about Kira. I grew to love her. I did not like her from the beginning. But I didn't like Ensign Ro either. So I don't know. It's just my personality type kind of. Maybe it's just that angry kind of chaotic person is not the type that I watch TV for. But I've learned to appreciate them a little bit more. So
yeah. I can see, I mean, there's certain moments when I'm just like, oh boy, dial it down. It's okay. You don't have to be at 11 all the time. And she kind of is. So I can see them being moments when I'm just going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I find her fire really fun and meaningful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're also introduced to Odo. Now, Odo's makeup was jarring for me in these first couple episodes. If people here are watching haven't seen the first few episodes in a while, he looks more humanoid than Odo does in the rest of the series. Like, he looks older. The makeup is a little bit not figured out yet.
Interesting.
So I'm curious about your thoughts on Odo.
Yeah, he's going to take some getting used to. I'm curious now how he will change as the series goes on. Um, but very interesting character, just very sort of mysterious, like ambivalent, or no, ambiguous sort of ties. You don't quite know where he is. But just in this grouping of episodes, these six that we watch, I can see him being a really fun character to get to know, because he seems to have he actually has strong uh, allegiance to Kira, it seems like, and you know, I like him. He was a little bit. It was a little off just at first.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is, you remember this from Voyager, from TNG, where a lot of it is the characters figuring out who they are.
Right.
Exactly. It's rough because we're like, I don't know how to feel about you yet, and I think DS9 screams that.
Yeah.
there's a lot. But yeah, Etake mentioned just it is interesting, the sort of social dynamic, how we're raised to perceive women like Kira, and how that has shaped our reactions to her. And I think that that's valid. I think that's valid. We're conditioned to be like, shut up, man.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point, because I've always gravitated to characters like that on a really strong basis, like, Jo March or Anne Shirley or Princess Leia, people like this, women who are very vocal and hot-headed, because I'm not like that, and I wish I was more like that. And I, have always had that kind of dichotomy of the types of female characters that I tend to admire and look at. So yeah, that's an interesting point.
Did you feel like you understood her a little bit better, having watched TNG and seen Ensign Ro and her story?
Yes, for sure. I think that was really helpful. I think I probably would have disliked her, and maybe dislikes too strong of a word, but I would have just not quite identified with her as much, as somebody I like, if I hadn't seen Ensign Ro in Next Gen, and understood what's behind a lot of that.
Awesome. I like it. That's really cool. I love it. I'm so excited we're talking about this series. I'm just so excited. Okay, any other thoughts sort of on the opening? I mean, another big aspect is the religion. Now, we're, this idea of the prophets and these wormhole aliens, and that now we have this stable wormhole that's opened up. And I think for me, that was the biggest tonal shift to go from the other series into this one. It wasn't the fact that it was at a station. It wasn't the fact that it wasn't purely Federation. It was the fact that now we have a lot of political and religious topics that are coming up. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't quite glom onto that as heavily in the pilot, because they really stuffed a lot in the pilot, and I guess that was one of the major things they stuffed in. But at the same time, it kind of like, there's all these new characters and all these new plot lines, and so I was like, oh yeah, and the religious person with the hat.
Is it Kaio Kampa? Yeah. I think, yeah.
and then you go on to something else, and it's like, oh, and there's Quark, and there's this person, and there's that happening, and
Yeah, and I think, some people really like those storylines, and you're right. I think that the prophets and I guess at this point they're just like wormhole aliens, but they're basically, in the pilot, they function to introduce the character. They function for character development, less as like an actual plot of let's get into the dynamics of religion on Bajor.
Right. Yeah. And I can see them coming back for sure. And it seems like they're a major component of this, but I didn't get a lot of like, oh, that's a really important thing for me to focus on in the pilot right now.
Yeah. And anyone who knows myself and my partner, we call Aaron because we're Aaron and Aaron, but Aaron, when we were watching Deep Space Nine together, and it was his first time kind of watching some of the later seasons because he'd gone off to the Marines before the series ended. Anytime a Bajoran religious figure is in the cold open, his reaction every time was, well, no ships in this one. So gotcha. We'll do that. Oh, and right. I think we've got some extra credits folks headed our way. So thank you for that. We'll brace ourselves for an extra credits raid. Right. But great timing. Yes, indeed. And we are about to get super geeky in a second here. Yes. And thank you, Todd. I'm glad we're on Deep Space Nine as well. This is super fun. So you got through the pilot. You still you weren't like, God, what was she putting this on?
No, I wasn't. It did start slowly. It was kind of like this weird slow, I mean, after I just said there were a lot of stuff happening first, but it was also kind of like like it's kind of like it was because I guess it was a lot of information. Right.
It's a lot, and it's a lot of stuff. So yeah. Thank you for the heads up extra credits. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Beach balls everywhere.
We got an extra credits raid, so thank you all for being here. We'll let everyone settle in, and then we'll
pool party.
But this is great. This is great timing because now we can transition into the first episode, and frankly, I'm about to lose my brain a little bit. So what we're talking about, this is the only episode where Nog gets into any trouble. Yeah, that's fair.
Yikes.
And Aaron Harvey in the thing mentioned when the three of us are together, we're the triad of Aarons. You're correct. And Aaron Eisenberg also used to make that joke too, because we did that. And we have a whole host of followers now too. So we have Apple Tree, Nyler Thonic, thank you, Temmie Jack, and Mila Minoki, and a few other people are coming in. So thank you all for being here. This is our Star Trek Sunday brunch. We are discussing the beginning of Deep Space Nine, and Samantha is a first-time watcher. So this is, that's what we're up to. Awesome.
That's what we're doing.
Awesome. Oh, and thank you, Darth Bob. And Andy, this is their extra credits raid. This is the beach balls. Okay, so let's thank you all for being here. We got to talk about past Prologue.
We gotta do it.
Because so this is the second episode after the pilot, and when I went to pull the wiki description of this one for our notes and everything. Oh, that's okay. All it says was a Bajoran terrorist seeks asylum on the ship and has a past relationship with Kira, period. Mm-hmm. Garrick is introduced.
Mm-hmm. He is. And I was watching it and going, did he just say his name is Garrick? I think that's someone I've heard Aaron mention.
He's my alien space boyfriend.
Then I was like, oh, so Aaron's space boyfriend sells clothes.
Yeah. And he's a Cardassian. When we were talking about the Cardassians when we were finishing TNG, I was kind of like, uh-oh. Like, I have to find a way to tell her that my alien space boyfriend, true love in Star Trek universe, is a Cardassian. Taylor. A Cardassian Taylor.
Uh-huh. A Cardassian Taylor.
Yes. I love people are throwing in here. This is amazing. Everyone, Garrick.
Right. Garrick. Yes, Aaron. That's what I was getting at.
We love
gay Cardassian space boyfriend.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I heard this name and I was like, I think that's him. I think that's the name. and as he started talking to Bashir, I was like, oh, he's really creepy. But then 2 seconds later, I was like, no, he's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I love him as well. This is great.
Yeah, and you've known me now for over 10 years since we were in college together, so I'm sure it just took one conversation for you to be like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense.
That's about right. That's about right. So good times, good
Yeah.
times. It's okay, mentioned. I don't know how you can love both Riker and Garrick. They're diametrically opposed. I mean, you're not wrong. They are diametrically opposed, and yet, welcome to my brain.
Right, exactly. I love the chat right now. Everyone seems to love Garrick, so now I'm like really excited to just see more of him.
I know. It's great. And the funny thing is it's like he's weirdly not in it that much. Like when you look up, like if you look up Andrew Robinson, who played Garrick's IMDb profile, you know, it says like 20 episodes or something. And you're like, okay. No way. No way. Because every time he's in an episode, he steals it. And he feels like a permanent presence on the station. That it feels weird that he's only in a couple, like a handful for the relative 7 full seasons of DS9, a handful of episodes. Because he's just... all the feels.
Yay.
All the feels. Yeah, I love it. That's amazing. Yeah, they are all the best. I love it. And I think I think, you know, where the similarity of Riker, not to completely just analyze my fandom, but, my personal fan preferences, but I think it's a swagger and it's a confidence thing that I like about them. And Garrick just oozes confidence and swagger.
That's a really good point. I could definitely see that. It's like a swagger, but also like a boyish charm of like, yeah. Swagger with boyish charm and hearts of gold type of stuff. Like
exactly. And we got 2 subscriptions. I hope people are subscribing just so we can see Garrick's emote that we have in there. But thank you to Tebby Jack and to Extra Credits for subscribing so we can get the Garrick jazz hands, because it's amazing. And we got a hype train going, so feel free to gift, sub, or use bits to keep going on to the next level. But thank you all so much for the support and the follows and everything. And it's just Garrick's spirit that is bringing all of this joy. It's bringing all of us together.
I can't wait to see more of him. I'm excited.
Yeah, that we're gonna have some episodes to discuss. I'm very, very excited for that one. So, thank you for the bits. Yeah, it's amazing. So, let's talk about the actual episode.
Oh wait, we weren't doing.
We weren't just gonna do
there's an actual.
Oh, thank you, Nova and Book Addict. Yeah, so this episode, this really does, I mean, they hit us now over the head with the Bajoran terrorist Cardassian conflict here, right? We have basically Bajoran terrorist now feels safe in here, so he's seeking asylum above on board. The Cardassians are trying to capture him and get him back, and now Kira Nerys is like stuck in the middle of this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one, and I'm seeing all the bits coming. Thank you. But carry on, Samantha.
Woo! I think this was clearly one of those pivotal early, obviously, episodes for Kira to kind of choose a side in a way, and that to me was, I wasn't sure what side she was going to choose, you know, and she reprimanded her old, you know, comrade and was like, this is, you know, we can't do this. But I also think that his presence and like re-inspired in her, like a fight of remembering why she's there as a Bajoran, as opposed to like as opposed to as a liaison.
Right. That
so,
she fundamentally isn't part of the Federation.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, she is there to represent Bajor. And thank you for the subscription, Neo is Garrick Jassy. And I think it's really fascinating. And I think I agree, even when she's kind of on that ship with him, you're still like, God, she could pull like a row. She could pull a Ro Laren here. And after what we just witnessed with Ro Laren defecting to the Maquis, it feels like that could go that way. But so and then the fact that she didn't was like really defining for her character, I think. But it also felt like she got
little seeds of, I'm not going to forget,
Yeah.
that I'm defending Bajoran rights and, I'm not part of the Federation.
Yeah. And Andy in the chat brought up a good point. We didn't talk about getting Bajor ready to join the Federation thing. So the fact that, like, this was a lot of sort of the overlying discussion. We kind of talked a little bit about in TNG, where, Bajor is not part of the Federation.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Okay.
So this is the Federation is basically sided with them, is in this Cardassian conflict, but they're not part of the Federation. So we'll get more stories with that as we go.
Okay.
I'm just reading your notes about Garrick. It's really funny. And thank you all. We made it to a level 2 hype train. It's still going on if anyone wants to cheer, but no pressure. I'm thrilled that we've got to where we are. So I really appreciate all of the support and thank you. It is a big point of contention, and I do agree, Jaya, that there is some component of that with the theocracy element of Bajor. And I think the conflict, right? Because we had that discussion in TNG when we were looking at the other planet that Beverly and Picard got stuck on that were trying to join the Federation.
Yeah.
Remember? And they basically were like, you're still at conflict. Like, we can't. This is a mess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, yeah, and those episodes were really interesting to me. I remember in learning more about the process of, planets applying and wanting to be part of the Federation, and that barrier to entry is really high, and that Bajor is still in a situation where they're not a peaceful enough society, I guess, to join. But are they in discussions, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't think that Bajor, and people can feel free to chime in the chat here. Personally, I don't think Bajor as a planet has a consensus on joining the Federation. I think that they see it. This is my personal opinion from having watched 7 years of Deep Space Nine, but this is my personal opinion, is that they have just got out from Cardassian occupation. So it's like, let's be independent for a little while and then see how far we get with that. So
totally, yeah. And I think that was brought up in this episode, right? Or maybe it was
I think it was this one.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
And that really struck me as, okay, I kind of get that. Like, these people are still in a mindset of, we just got free from this other occupation. Why are we gonna? It's not that they're going to be occupied by the Federation, but they weren't going to be having their own independence to figure it out for themselves. But so that's a really interesting point. And
I think that's where Kira's coming from too, is she's like, look, we're here to work together, but I'm not going to suddenly don a Federation uniform because I've been most of my life under someone else's occupation. So it's interesting.
Exactly.
Thank you all for the hype train. That was really sweet and very fun. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, Aaron, some people would consider it an occupation. Yeah, some DS9ers, some want to join, some want to be independent. And it's really interesting. Yeah. Jaya made a really good point. I love Deep Space Nine because of the fact we're really watching a set of people in place to see long-term effects.
Right.
And I think that's very different. Can we talk for a second? I promise I'm not going to take over the Garrick discussion again, but I love how him and Bashir, first of all, him and Bashir's relationship is fabulous. I love how when Garrick kind of found out what was going on, how he like pulled Bashir in, and Bashir was like, I don't know what's happening. It's like, Daddy Cisco, this weird Cardassian told me to be at his shop at a specific time, and I don't know what's happening.
Cisco's like, I think you could use a new suit. And Bashir's just like, oh,
okay. Oh, and then he's late.
I love Bashir. Is he late, really?
Well, remember, he showed up like 2 minutes late, and Garrick's like, get in the freaking changing room, idiot. Just put this on. He's like, I thought I was trying on a suit. Just get in the changing room.
Oh God.
So
I actually love Bashir.
Really?
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear your thoughts on Bashir.
Because, well, it's funny because when he first appeared in Next Gen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, who is this creepy doctor talking to Data? Like, I don't like this person. It sounds like he wants to take Data apart. And you were like, yeah, he's this big guy in D Space Nine, so you'll see a lot of him. And in the beginning of D Space Nine, he's kind of like still that same thing of you're not sure why you don't like him in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But having seen him in Next Gen, then saw him here, and I was like, oh, he's actually he's fun.
Really?
He's just, I don't know. I really, really liked him because I guess because I recognized him and knew he wasn't anybody to dislike.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. I just really found him enjoyable.
Yeah. That's great. It's so funny. So this actually transitions really well into the next episode. So this is A Man Alone is the next episode. This is the one where Odo basically is getting framed for this murder of a Bajoran, right? Of a Bajoran? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't write it down. And it starts off with Bashir being kind of creeper on Dax.
Like, yeah, I suppose.
He's a little bit problematic. And if you find him cute, I mean, we are not a judgmental group of people here. So I will wax poetic about Garrick's face for a long time. So no judgment on preferences. But he has some stumbling blocks. And I think his constant pursuit of Jadzia is a little awkward.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he's not a perfect human, that's for sure. I guess I find him kind of like so, like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? He's like, I don't know. I can't figure it out, but like Dax is just like kind of holding her own and like not, and he knows like her thing, and is trying to like, I don't know. I guess it's mostly she's not having any of it, and he keeps trying in a way that's just sort of silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's fair. Well, another whole aspect of this episode, so this is now A Man Alone. Another whole aspect that they brought in with this, I feel like the plot of the Odo murder question really took a backseat to some of the character development that we got in this, because we got Keiko really talking about in her relationship with O'Brien. She's like, I don't know why I'm on this space station. They do not need a botanist. We're not traveling to other planets. There's nothing for me to do here. Was interesting. I don't know. I would curious on your thoughts on that one. Because did you hadn't like really seen much of Keiko. We had a couple of their establishing episodes when they got together, but
not much. Although now that just remembered, when she has the baby on the Enterprise, that's a lot more warpable moments. I just remembered that.
Warpable.
No, I didn't have a lot of Keiko moments, but I really like her a lot. I think she's a great character, and I am a little confused though why. I mean, the Deep Space Nine could use some greenery. So, why? I mean, she's like, she could build a greenhouse or something like that. Could use
some ambiance.
But anyway, no, I agree with her. She's got some points about not feeling useful, and that's a big thing. And I think starting the school is just such a great outcome of that.
Yeah.
And but this episode was a bit. It wasn't my favorite.
No, that's fair. I agree.
Yeah.
This one's pretty forgettable. It wasn't until sort of you get the character stuff where I was like, oh yeah, that moment. And there's some requests in the chat that we make the Awarfable image an emote, and I would love to, but I need 35 more not prescription points, 35 more subscription points before I can unlock my next emote. So just putting that out there. No pressure, anyone, but if we want an Awarfable emote, that's what's going to need to happen first. So thank you. And yes, it is amazing, and I appreciate it a lot. So yeah, it's the other thing. So we also got, surrounding with the school, was Jake and Nog.
Yeah.
Their relationship. I mean, it's going to get emotional. It's not going to get emotional yet, but it's coming like a freight train. Jake and Nog have a fabulous relationship, and just seeing them as young kids goofing around together on the station brings me such joy. I know, obviously they're chaotic children being children, but that's so new to Deep Space Nine. Alexander never had a moment like that because he didn't have any other friends, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like this is the equivalent of finally getting some like Alexander style, especially with Nog.
Yeah. They were great together. I love watching them and look forward to seeing more of them together.
Yeah. And yeah, let me see if there's anything else. Oh, just real quick before we get on to the next one. Maybe I'll bring this up at the end. Never mind. We'll hold on there. Never mind. Okay, so anything else on this episode? We have the shapeshifter stuff in there.
Well, yeah. What was funny is they're like screaming shapeshifter at him, like as the mob is like pointing and screaming shapeshifter, and I'm like, yeah, that's what he is. They're like, that's an insult. And it was a really funny like pitchforks thing, and I was like,
they're not saying anything but the truth. Yeah. Right. And they haven't really established that is something that they should be wary of or anything like that.
Right. So. It was just...
And this one, too, we also got to see a little bit more about Jadzia's history. So you'd met I think we had one episode in TNG.
We had one Trill episode, yeah.
So now we have Jadzia. And this is where they kind of get into a little bit about Curzon Dax and the relationship with Benjamin. So what were your thoughts on the Trill and Jadzia part?
Well, yeah, really interesting. I love... I think it's a very interesting concept, and can provide a lot of interesting storytelling. And the fact that Sisko knew Dax before, and is still getting used to Dax now, is, it's fun. It's an interesting way to just that it's an interesting character. I don't know that I have a lot of strong opinions yet on anything, just because I'm still getting used to it.
Totally.
But I think that's part of why Bashir to me was kind of like, he was a numbskull, but it wasn't like, I don't remember it as creepy just because he knows who she is, like, right.
He knows she's coming with way a hell of a lot more experience than he does.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. For me, the interesting thing with Curzon Dax is that every time they say the word Curzon Dax, I picture a freaking Klingon. And I think it's just the name. That every time Sisko says old man, every time Curzon Dax is brought up, I'm picturing an old crusty Klingon dude. And not a Trill. But that's just my own hilarious hang-up. And I just think it's because the name sounds Klingon-ish.
I guess. So when he's saying Curzon Dax, he's meaning when Dax was like the old man that we see when they're doing the twirl thing, the stomach thing.
Yeah, the previous life. Yeah, exactly. Her previous host was Curzon. So, which is the majority of the personality. It's basically like this symbiont. And I think in the next set of episodes, we have a pretty Trill-focused episode that will kind of go into a little bit more with this. But yeah, so Curzon, old man, like him and Cisco were really good friends, and now Jadzia is Jadzia Dax. So Dax is the thread, and then Curzon and Jadzia are the names of the hosts.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about Babel.
Let's do it. Babel.
Man, we're not going to talk about it much because I did not need a virus outbreak storyline.
Seriously. The strepsil was very triggering.
Yeah. Yeah. It was it was deeply unpleasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And Terrell in Twitter messaged me, or posted on Twitter, tagged me in it, saying like the Quark arguing to keep his bar open as an essential service is a whole mood right now. Screams into the void.
I know. Oh my God. But that was really, I mean, all of the words that they're using, like essential services and airborne virus, and I was just like, oh my God. Stop.
Yeah, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
Not a fan. I think we both said this is a hard nope from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like airborne mutating virus. This is a no.
Right. No, thank you.
Oh my gosh, you have some hilarious notes in here. Can you read out one of yours? About the Darmok thing?
Oh. So basically I said, this is like a Star Trek SNL skit about Darmok.
And I saw two people in the chat are just shouting nonsense words in here that are just what the virus was doing. So that's perfect. That is brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, this episode must have been such a blast to write. Yeah. And that, I mean, it's like, let's just fall asleep on our keyboards and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I do really like the opening, particularly the opening, where O'Brien is just getting called left and right. Everything's broken.
Yes. Oh, yeah. O'Brien. I mean, talk about a mood as well. Like,
yeah.
He's just like, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah. And he's dealing with Cardassian technology, which is all broken down. And he's just so good. He's just so great. I love it.
Oh, I love O'Brien.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he is definitely like stretched a little thin, you could say.
Yeah. How did you like Odo and Quark's relationship? Because I feel like this is the first episode where they start establishing, they hinted at it, but this is where they first establish their dynamic with their relationship. Because they're both immune to this virus. And yeah.
I love it. I think it's really fun to watch. And I can't tell, I mean, I can't tell if they hate each other or love each other, but it's that's what makes it really fun.
Yeah.
And I can see it developing, even more. And I thought the fact that they had to, they had to band together because they were the only ones immune, and they're sort of looking at each other like, well, I guess we gotta work together. And it just was so brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
It was a kind of a funny subplot of like, there's this weird werewolf guy who wants to leave and is just not listening to reason or advice. And it was like abandoning his own crew on Deep Space Nine to leave. And Odo and Quark are just like, no, like, stop.
Just stop.
But then he leaves, and like something happens where the entire station's gonna blow up if they don't.
Yeah.
If they don't do something. I was like, well, that escalated quickly. We have to figure this out.
Right. For being a giant station, that escalated super fast.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it was just fun.
That's amazing. That's fabulous. No, I really, really like it. So, good times. And P. Stemish did a IRL real world update. The Dragon Con, The Dragon capsule has splashed down. So thank you for the update on that. The return from the International Space Station splashed down in the Gulf. First time we've ever landed astronauts in a capsule in the Gulf of Mexico. I think it was the Gulf of Mexico, right? Yeah. So
nice.
Fun facts. So yeah, let's close out the last episode then. We're going to talk about Captive Pursuit, which also has some great Quark moments in it too. Yes. I love this episode. Rewatching this is a perfect example of a single episode great storyline with strong characters that has a clear arc that you get attached to. The story ends and we move on to the next. This is great episodic storytelling and I love it.
Me too. Hard agree. This was such a great episode.
Summary of it, this is the one where we have alien Tosk comes through the space, the wormhole, the first random visitor from this now stable wormhole. So they're like, first contact, what do we do? Let's talk to him. And his ship is broken, and O'Brien very quickly is like, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna get you out of there, but you have to listen to me. This is what you have to do. They manage to save him, and then they go through and get him onto the station. They build this relationship, and then you find out that he's essentially being hunted by another species in the Gamma Quadrant. So, yes, thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly the same. Loved this episode. It was such a great O'Brien episode. Like, he's such a gem. I mean, you know, the way he gets to know the alien and really tries to help and ends up breaking the rules to help him at the end, and like just he had such a strong sense of goodwill from him, even when the evidence was pointing to, you know, why is he looking for the weapons array and all this stuff, like
why is he messing with security systems?
Yeah, you know, stuff that maybe you want to question a little bit, but I just loved how he had kind of a Geordie-esque vibe in this episode, I thought, in terms of how he was talking to him and just like explaining the words and explaining customs and how things, and just really trusting that this person's not a threat, you know?
Yeah. And
it was just, that was fantastic. And then, is this the same species as from Voyager?
Looks like them. I was doing, and I also thought that they looked like the Suliban from Enterprise, so I think it's just a similar type character. Like, I don't think it's technically the same species. I'm willing to be corrected. I didn't actually look it up. I think it's just a similar looking species. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's pretty interesting. So, yeah, thanks, Mohammed. Convergent evolution strikes again.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and then mentioning a calm Nimi.
Telling me to Google the traveling Tosk. So I'll do that.
And I forgot to thank Zarada Nasser for subscribing. So thank you for that as well. We'll get there. We'll unlock our emotes soon enough. And like I said, this is a great episode. I love how they bonded over the engineering aspect. And then personally, and I think you agreed on this, is when they thank you, Rouge Rogue. No need to be lizardist. They don't all look alike. I mean, that's fair. I think we could probably take this up with the I just blanked his name. The makeup artist, Michael Westmore. We could take it up with him. We'll give him a call. His good friend Aaron, he knows us. So yeah, they it's an adorable episode, and I think it's got some great character growth for O'Brien. I love the scene with them in the bar, with Tosk and O'Brien in the bar.
Yes. Yeah, that's so great. Oh,
I love
it. This was the episode that really solidified me going, yep, I love Quark. Quark is awesome. When he's talking with O'Brien at the end, and he's like, oh, I helped somebody. And he goes over to the other guy who's like, what's your problem today? Oh, it was brilliant.
Exactly. It was so good. This whole barkeep. Now.
Yes.
I am a proprietor. A host.
Right.
Not a barkeep. Not a lowly
Not a
barkeep. So
then
good.
O'Brien just calls him barkeep again, and then it's like, yeah, this is good. This works.
So great. And Etake made a great point that he went from O'Brien at work to O'Brien, who knows more than just pushing a transporter button. Yeah, I think that sums it up really, really well. Really well.
Definitely.
And I love that they bond. Like, you could see it was a very natural bond that he had with Tosk in trying to fix this ship, you know, and teaching him a little bit of the idioms and piece of cake, you know?
Yes, exactly.
So great. I love it.
Yeah.
Question I'd like to pose, because I ended up getting in a debate with Aaron this morning about this. Is Tosk his name? His species? His delineation? Like, his title? Is his species bred on this planet to be hunted? Or is this the fantasy that the other species who's hunting Tosk has made up to make themselves feel better about this hunt? So, yes. The consensus is yes.
Yes.
All of the above.
I felt like it was a species delineation based on the hunt, the way they were describing the hunt, and it seemed like they were thought like the hunters were essentially, I don't know, it seemed like a kind of a brainwashing operation of some kind to like the species in Voyager. It was just very similar to that, which makes it an interesting Prime Directive type discussion.
Yeah.
At the end, like, how do we interact with this?
Well, and especially too because he asks O'Brien at the end, you know, do you want to become Tosk? You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, my wife would kill me. You're not wrong.
Exactly. But yeah, it was a really, really good episode.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I was just gonna pull this one up so we can see if there's any references to this. Yeah, it's possible. Muhammad said he doesn't have an individual name. It was really interesting, and it calls to mind a great short story, a theme that we've seen in a lot of storytelling, which is the most dangerous game, hunting fellow man, human. I have fallen down the rabbit hole of Memory Alpha, which has way too much stuff in here about this. We'll talk about it. Reminded me of the Jem'Hadar, but you haven't met the Jem'Hadar yet from the Gamma Quadrant. I did like the line too, where the hunters are basically like, "Well, we're gonna put in a rule: no going through the wormhole. The wormhole is now off bounds.
It's out of bounds for our game."
Yeah, that was great. And yeah, I don't see any. If it's buried, I'm just not seeing it straight away. But there we go. Okay, so Michael Westmore. I promise I won't read all this trivia and reception and stuff, but Michael Westmore was extremely pleased with this installment. It earned Westmore and his team a nomination for an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Makeup for a Series. I think that's very cool. Well deserved. That felt very natural species and very cool and very well played by Scott McDonald. I'm not biased, I promise. He spells it with a capital D. That's lowland nonsense. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to ask you earlier and then figured we'll come back to it now, because you did text me like last night that you were like, I love Quark. And I was like, yay. So your only exposure to Ferengis up until this point was one episode of Voyager and a handful of extremely problematic TNG episodes, and then one appearance from Quark where him and Riker were settling their debts. So, what are your thoughts on the Ferengi now that we have, in 6 short episodes, introduced a lot more?
Well, not a lot more. We've just seen Quark, basically, and his son.
Well, I suppose a lot more in the... Because we saw... No, so we have Quark, and then Nog is actually Rom's son. So Rom is Quark's brother. And then he was the one that wouldn't let Nog go to school, originally. Right. And then he was like, grabbed him. So I say a lot more. I just mean we now have 3 who are all very different. We have a Ferengi kid.
Yes.
We have Rom, who you still haven't really got to know that much yet, and then Quark.
Right.
So yeah, opinions on the Ferengi.
Opinions on the Ferengi. Ooh. Well, I'm very excited about these characters because they think I'm gonna get a much more nuanced view of Ferengi approaches and perspectives. It's still, I mean, they did a good job of like keeping what we know about them. You know, it's all about money and trading and money and trading. But I feel like there's more room for growth that I see of like, again, more nuance. Whereas the previous Ferengi episodes were just like really black and white about the Ferengi.
Yeah.
Like, and here I'm seeing a lot more personalization, and I'm excited to see that, like, those two things work together.
Yeah.
Like the Ferengi personality and culture with growing with these other types of species around them, and so I'm very excited, and I do like Quark a lot, and I can't wait for more.
I love him too. Awesome. Rouge Rogue said, sometimes I feel if I have to hear one more Ferengi say gold press Latinum, my head is going to explode. Valid.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that brings us pretty much to the end. We're at the top of the hour. So next week, we're going to talk about the following episodes. We're going to talk about Q-less, hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yay.
Dax, the Passenger, Move Along Home, the Negus, and Vortex. So the next 6 episodes will go up from Q-less through Vortex. So feel free to have a watch and join us next time. And
yeah,
Attica mentioned, let's turn that into a drinking game, gold plus platinum. That would make for interesting prick brunches. Yeah, the self-stealing, we're going to have to play a game where I can never say self-sealing stem bolts on the first go-around. And I know that was a running joke with Aaron Eisenberg as well. Self-sealing stem bolts. Every time.
Self-sealing stem bolts.
All right, anyway.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one. Okay, well, any final words, Samantha, as we close out today?
No, I am very excited to watch more Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And yay!
I'm excited too.
Me too.
Awesome. So
thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And thank you so much to everyone. I couldn't keep up with all the follows, and all of the cheers and the bits and everything. So thank you. And I have seen it. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait for you all to see more as we go through this Deep Space Nine adventure. And if you're interested in learning about the science behind Emissary, as well as the TNG finale, All Good Things, those are the 2 episodes that the patrons voted to discuss on Tuesday. So I will be discussing those, the science behind All Good Things and Emissary, on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time here. And then Astronomy 101 will continue next Friday. And then we will be back the following Sunday to talk about Deep Space Nine.
See you then.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we will catch you next time. All right. Live long and prosper. Bye.